Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Melanin Margin, the weekly chat show where conversations about race are never off the table. We're your hosts, Quaviondre Williams.
And Daquon Wilson.
So let's get into this week's conversation. What's hot on the table this week?
In an article written by Declan Gallagher, we learned that Tyler Perry has sparked controversy after a new interview in which he gave advice about splitting bills in relationships. Appearing on the Keep It Positive, Sweetie podcast, Perry shared his feelings about dividing household expenses and revealed that they don't have to be split down the middle. He says, quote, "I might get in trouble for saying this, but I will. In our society right now, Black women are making a lot more money for the most part than Black men. If you can find love, if that man works at whatever job and is a good man and is good to you and honors the house and honors his wife and does what he can, that is okay," end quote. He continued saying, quote, "As long as he's secure in himself to know that, yeah, she makes most of the money, all I can pay is the light bill, as long as she's comfortable enough to say, I'm going to cover the mortgage and all the other stuff, that is fine," end quote. So, Andre, I wanted to ask you, is love really enough to sustain a long-term relationship?
You know, I think that we've been sold this fantasy that love is all you need to sustain a relationship by nearly every single Hallmark, Lifetime, and Disney movie out there. And in fiction, yes, love will conquer every single relationship obstacle there is and give you the strength to barrel through any problem that comes your way. However, in the real world, there are no fade to blacks or rolling credits. Love stories don't end after the I do's. There is so much more beyond that. And this is where I think that a lot of people make the most mistakes. While love is definitely a necessary factor in sustaining a relationship, it's still only one factor among many. People can get so caught up in the whirlwind of what finding love can feel like that they forget to take the time to look into compatibility beyond just attraction. Oftentimes, this leads to the failure of even the most successful relationships. When looking into love, I think one of the most important things to consider is life compatibility. These are the big things that matter most to you or your hard passes, so to speak. For example, some of my hard passes include a person who is deeply religious, a person who wants to have children, or a person who lacks ambition. Now, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with people like that, but the person I'm hoping to spend the rest of my life with has to have life goals that complement my own. I also feel like your hard passes need to be discussed before love gets involved because that's when things get messy. Now, I want to clarify, yes, there are some things that you are going to have to compromise on. Stuff like where to put the couch, how to, decorate your home, what type of bed you two choose to get or whatever like that. But there are some things that there is no option for compromise. You cannot compromise on having a child when one partner wants one and the other one doesn't. You cannot compromise on going to church every Sunday when one partner is a devout believer and the other one is an atheist. There is simply no way to compromise on things that you hold as fundamental values. You are going to meet some amazing people in your life, people who are going to check so many boxes of what you're looking for, but you have to enforce your non-negotiables. That's the thing that keeps you from settling for a partner who may be a good person, but the wrong person for you. Any relationship that begins with you settling for a person will fail in the long term. Not to mention the fact that you two will waste your lives trying to make a relationship work that was doomed at the start. Now, I'm not saying that you have to give a prospective partner a fucking questionnaire on the first date, but I am saying that before you decide that you want to get into a relationship with someone, you need to discuss your non-negotiables with them so that you don't keep each other from finding the person who you are fundamentally compatible with. But what do you think, Daquon? Do you think that love is enough to sustain a relationship?
I mean, we've talked about love a lot of times on this podcast.
Yeah.
And I know I have said a lot of things, but I'll just say this. For me, love is the foundation. Love is not the house, right? Love can be the foundation of so much in your life, but it's not going to keep a roof over your head. Yeah. It can get you through some hard times, but at the end of the day, you still have to get to the root cause of those hard times and address them so that they don't happen in the future, because there's an expiration date with love. You go through time after time, struggle after struggle, and love can get you through it. But eventually there is going to come that big challenge where you're like, I don't think my love is enough. Or I think that my love for myself and my needs and who I am as a human being is too much for me to continue to be put through all of this nonsense. Now, side note, I don't know why we're getting love advice from Tyler Perry of all people, because I don't know much about his love life, but I haven't heard good things. And if it's anything like the plays he writes, girl, that's a whole nother conversation. That goes back to, it's good in fiction. It's good, on screen, on a play, but in reality, in the real world, that's not for me. It's not for a lot of people. And I don't think that a lot of people realize the kind of undertones of a sentiment like this, because we often hear the phrase, oh, well, he's a good man. He's a good man. But I don't think a lot of people think about, why settle for good when you can have greats? When you can have excellent, magnificent, amazing. Like, this isn't even just like, oh, I have way too high of a standard. No, I just have standards. I just have boundaries that I know need to be fulfilled and need to be respected. So, and I also can't help but notice that so often this conversation is always in reference to Black women and how they love people. So I wanted to ask you, why are Black women expected to settle for less in ways that women of other races are not?
I think that a contributing factor in this idea is the way that Black media sort of glorifies struggle love. There's this idea that floats around in a lot of Black movies and TV shows that the more a relationship has to endure, the more intense and meaningful the love is, should it survive. It's almost like the emotional battle wounds of a toxic relationship are badges of honor that Black women are expected to wear with pride. Like, no matter how many times he cheated, the fact that she took him back just shows her devotion to him. Or, yes, he is incredibly emotionally abusive, but he takes care of the bills and he has some good days, so she should just love him through the pain. And no matter what he does, if he has a good job and he makes decent money, or sometimes even if he's just, a nice guy apparently, but he sponges off of that woman, people will tell her the same thing you said. He's a good man, Savannah, a good man. He's just in a bad situation. He's trying to get out. But the fact is, he is not a good man. He never was a good man to begin with. And loving him through this bullshit will not make your love more powerful. All it will do is make it easier for him to use you. No one is saying that you should abandon your partner when things get tough. But if you are the only one taking the initiative to bettering your situation, then the person that you're with is not really your partner. They are a leech. Our society has created a world where Black women are expected to handle the brunt of everything, and this extends to their romantic relationships as well. Not only do some Black men expect Black women to submit to their lead, but they also expect them to pay a majority of the bills while also placating their egos. And it's like, fuck out of here. I'm so fucking sick of people telling Black women what they should or shouldn't do, how they should or shouldn't act, and what they should or shouldn't settle for. The conversation is almost always about trying to humble a Black woman, but we never hear Black men telling other Black men, if you can only pay a light bill, you need to focus on trying to level yourself up before you get into a relationship. If you can't meet your partner at the level they are at, then maybe that's not someone you should be trying to get into a relationship with. And I think that a lot of people confuse this as being classist, but I don't think that that's the same thing. It's not that you're saying that this person isn't good enough to be with you. It's recognizing that there is a clear imbalance that has the potential to cause serious problems in the relationship down the line. Be it resentment because one partner feels they have to take care of everything by themselves, or even jealousy because the other partner envies the fact that they can't afford to take care of the household in a significant way. And the list just goes on and on and on and on. It's hard to focus on building something together when one partner is already leagues ahead of the other. But what do you think, Daquon?
I completely agree. I think that unfortunately, the struggle love just has chokehold on our it won't leave. It will always be there. And like, while it can be beautiful in movies, while that narrative can be refreshing to see every now and then, when it is constant, it begins to be just an expectation that in love you will struggle versus a chance. Like, you could struggle in love, but there's also so many other possibilities of how love can look like in your life, where you're not struggling with somebody who is emotionally abusive or physically abusive, and you use the power of love to get through it all and change him, and you have the perfect man with that ugly wig that Tyler Perry put on that man. I'm not going to get into that, but I think that it's one of those things where I also believe that it comes down to just how Black women are portrayed. We see a lot of, throughout history, stereotypes of black women, whether it's the strong, independent Black woman, the mammy, the Jezebel, all of these different depictions and caricatures of what a Black woman is, that I feel like for some people, they've lost the reality of how nuanced Black women are and all of the different things that they can be. It's this expectation that Black women are supposed to be strong and independent and handle all of these things, but they're also supposed to submit to this man because that is the gender roles that people abide by, and all of these different crazy things, where I think that there is something getting lost in translation, and it's just a lot of times unfair for Black women because they already have the double marginalization of both being Black and woman, plus whatever other compounding identities they have. And so they kind of get put onto the bottom of the totem pole a lot of times in terms of priorities. It's a lot of times it gives, well, Black women are undesirable. They're this, and that, all of this thing. So you should just be grateful that somebody loves you. And let's be real, that's disgusting. You
Yeah.
should not be grateful for love. It should be a given. People in your life love you. And if they don't love you, then maybe they shouldn't be in your life like that. And I get so tired, like you, seeing all of these narratives that Black women are supposed to just settle, that they get what they get and they don't complain, and all of these other things that I think are really creating such a negative response. And all of the conversations always surround what Black women are supposed to do versus their partners, which really paints this image that Black women are the problem. And that's why it's so problematic, because let's be real, they're not the problem. It's the people in their life that ain't shit. That's the problem. It's the people who can't get it together. And like you said, this isn't a classist type debate. I'm not saying that if you can only pay the light bill, then you can only afford people to love in that are at the same level of you. No, because what it really comes down to a lot of times is being able to have a conversation and being able to have open and honest communication. And that isn't something that a lot of people have the ability to do. They, of course, need to work on themselves so that they can communicate.
Yeah.
But I don't think a lot of people are ready to have those conversations, because oftentimes it does lead to jealousy or resentment
Yeah.
or all of these other problems that, if you really nipped it in the bud from the start, those wouldn't have to manifest.
I think it also kind of going back to that conversation. Like, I think that the reality is, if you are in a position where you are taking away from someone's life versus adding to it, then that's not a relationship, or at least not a symbiotic one. It's kind of parasitic, because in this type of situation, we all know that everybody falls on hard times every now and then. Your husband might lose their job, or something might happen, or they become, whatever the issue may be. And I think that there is something to be said about standing by your man and standing by your woman when they're going through tough times, in sickness and health, richer for poor, all that jazz. But I also think that if that person is not taking the initiative to try to help, if you can only pay the light bill, that's one thing. But if you can only pay the light bill, if you are choosing just to pay the light bill and not trying to help her pay any other bills, or not trying to level yourself up so that you are able to afford the mortgage, you are able to afford other bills, then that's completely different.
Right.
Would you agree?
Yeah, I totally agree. Or if you're not trying to just level up in any other aspect of the relationship, like, yeah, you can only pay the light bill, but can't you be a little bit more compassionate? They're working all of these hours and they come home to a messy house. They have to still clean and cook and do all of these different things. Like, let's be a little bit more even in the relationship. Let's have a little bit more give and take, more balance. Because if you are just paying the light bill and you're kind of sitting on the couch, just waiting for a career to happen and not doing anything to actually pursue the career, that's totally different than, let's say you have this career passion that you're trying to get, you're grinding, you're trying to make things happen, but you only have enough to pay the light bill. That's completely different.
It's a completely different situation.
Yeah, right. It's a completely different situation.
And in those circumstances too, if that's all you can afford, like you said before, then the house is going to always be clean. Food is never going to be worried about. Grocery shopping is going to be done. Lawn's going to be fucking trimmed. Like, all that shit's going to be done, because what I can't make up for in this regard, I'm going to make up for in another regard. So that way I know when you come home, you're going to come home to a clean house. You're going to come home to some hot food. You're going to come home to whatever the case may be. Or even the reverse, the other way around. No one's saying that you can't be there for your man, or stand by your man, or stand by your woman. But if your partner is not being a partner,
right,
then what the fuck is y'all doing? In an article on the New York Post written by Elisa Guzman, we learned that Oprah Winfrey and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson faced backlash after asking fans to donate money to help those affected by the Maui wildfires, despite having a combined net worth of more than $2.8 billion. The Hollywood duo collectively kicked in $10 million to kickstart the People's Fund of Maui, but then jointly asked their fans on Instagram and TikTok to donate the rest. However, many fans complained they were already living paycheck to paycheck, and the uber-rich celebrities should dole out more of their own money toward relief efforts. One fan, Carrie Jacobs, commented on Oprah's follow-up video on Instagram saying, quote, "Billionaires asking for money from the poor? What a joke," end quote. Plenty others criticized the small starting fund for the two actors who have much more, with many highlighting how little $5 million was for them. Assuming they split it evenly, $5 million would only amount to 0.2% of Winfrey's gigantic stash, and the amount is nearly 1.9% of Johnson's wealth, which is estimated to be $300 million. So, Daquon, I wanted to ask you, do you think that this request from Oprah and The Rock was in poor taste?
I think they both need to take a COVID test because they've lost their taste.
Oh my goodness.
It's wild. Yeah. How they ask
okay,
for
Bob's
money.
Drag Queen. Okay.
Right. It's wild. How they ask for money when they are worth billions together. I think that it, of course, is in poor taste because you have people who are struggling, who are living paycheck to paycheck, like we said before, and you're asking them to donate to something that you could easily snap a finger, send money to, solve with no issue. You would probably make up the money that you give them in literal days based on what's sitting in your bank account, in your investments or whatever. So to me, it's one of those things where it does come as bad taste because we just have this notion that, oh, we are all coming together and we're all doing this, when in reality, you could do it yourself. Mm-hmm. You could literally take the time to just give a little money, give a lot more than what you give, and still be fine, and still have the billion, still have the mansions, the Porsches, all of these expensive cars and luxury properties and this and that. And we make it seem like, oh my gosh, Oprah cares. The Rock cares. Mm-hmm. They donated some money. They started this fund so that we can donate our money that is a drop in the bucket compared to what they can do. And I'm not saying that like people shouldn't donate. Like if you have the time, if you have the resources, whatever, this is a good cause. But I think that there is a difference from community grassroots organizing compared to a billionaire asking for charity with all of the different tax benefits they have for just being able to give away money and make it a tax write-off and this and that really puts a icky undertone to this.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I am so glad that we as a society are starting to see these celebrity donation campaigns as what they truly are, publicity stunts, especially when
it's giving PR.
It's giving very PR, like, especially when it comes to, it comes from celebrities whose wealth far exceeds the amount they could spend in one lifetime. The Rock and Oprah have entirely too much money on their own, and together to be asking anyone for donations for anything not only could they have met whatever their Kickstarter goal was with just their own income, but together they could have truly made a significant impact in the amount of aid Maui received if they reached even just a little bit more into their pockets. I think we're entering a new wave of social awareness more so than ever before, and the reaction to The Rock and Oprah is yet another example of this. People are getting tired of the wage disparities among the upper and lower class. Following the COVID pandemic and the rise of social media platforms like TikTok that make it easier than ever to connect to people directly who are experiencing similar plights to you, the distraction techniques that the upper class use to, shift the conversation away from them aren't working as effectively as they once were. Not too long ago, Oprah was the it girl. People looked up to her, respected her, cared about what she had to say about the world. In the eyes of many people, especially early 90s, Oprah could do no wrong. But people are starting to wake up and see the true colors of those who they looked up to all their lives. The division of our lives is no longer a brick wall that you could only see behind if a wealthy person had a reality TV show, right? In this new day and age, the lives of the wealthy are on display more than ever before. And because of this, we can more clearly see how much better off the wealthy are than we are. Not that we didn't know before, but I think that back then, we were sold this dream of attainability by the rich and famous. They made many people believe in the idea that if you just saved your money, if you just didn't get that Starbucks, the one they love to fucking say, bitch, if you just didn't get that Starbucks cup, you could save that Starbucks and invest in X, Y, and Z, and you too could be rich and famous. We thought all that we had to do was work hard, save, and we too could become millionaires and billionaires as well. But now the veil has been lifted from our eyes, and people are realizing that wealth is hoarded, and that the likelihood of the everyday average person becoming wealthy is about the same chances you take when you play the Powerball lottery. But Daquon, I want to ask you, why do you think the public perception of the wealthy has changed so much in 2023?
I think that it's twofold. I think that on one hand, there is just a lot more visibility when it comes to the lives and the inner workings and the really understanding what it means to be a billionaire, exactly how much money that is and all that you can do with it. There is so much more on celebrity lives now that we didn't see back then. I think that being rich and famous and all of these different things, an aspect of that was mystery. You didn't really know what celebrities were doing outside of, very coordinated photo shoots, events, maybe some paparazzi photos and interviews and things you will see in a magazine. But nowadays, we have so much more of these rich and powerful people's lives at the palm of our hands. We see so much more of what they do, how much they make, and what they can do with what they make. I also think that the other half of this conversation is growing disparities between the working class and that 1%. And those disparities blew up during COVID. And I think that's a huge reason why in 2023, something like this is being looked upon with bad taste, versus if this happened in 2003, people would be like, oh my gosh, Oprah and The Rock, they're angels, they're doing all this and that. Versus nowadays, we're like, they could solve this problem themselves. And I also think that even in regards to this conversation, there's a difference between somebody using their platform to uplift a certain cause or organization or who they're partnering with, because there were and there still are so many organizations who are on the ground, who are well
Yeah.
connected with the people there, who are trying to do all these amazing things and raise all of this money, that are a lot more connected to the everyday person versus uber rich people who have no connection to the everyday working class person. So I think that there's this large gap that is ever widening between everyday regular smuggler people like us versus the Oprahs, the Rocks, the Elon Musk and Bill Gates and all of them uber wealthy people who can easily solve so many problems across the world with just a fraction of their wealth and still have more money than they could spend in their lifetime, their children's lifetime, their grandchildren, great grandchildren, great
Yeah.
great. I could keep going.
Yeah. It wouldn't put a dent in it. Yeah.
It is insane how much money these people have.
Yeah, and I think that another clear example of how much the public perception of the wealthy has changed is the Titan submersible implosion that happened in June. The reason why is because people realize that these same billionaires who actively hoard their wealth and wouldn't spare a single penny of their own money to help the needy expect the rest of the world to stop and care for them simply because they are wealthy. And the scariest part was that is exactly what many people did. The Navy, the Coast Guard, Air Force, National Guard, to name just a few, were all aiding in the effort to rescue these billionaires from their own era of misjudgment and misguided belief that their money made them invulnerable. People were even upset at others who had no sympathy for the billionaires who put their own livelihoods at risk and in peril. I don't think the real reason why many everyday citizens weren't sympathetic to that situation had anything to do with not valuing a human life. I think it had everything to do with the realization that these billionaires happily spent the type of money that could change lives on an unnecessary excursion where they were told that it was highly unlikely that they would survive. We live in a world that protects you when you're rich and disregards you if you're poor. And I think that, like you just said too, we're entering an era where people are able to truly conceptualize just how much $1 billion really is and just how self-absorbed and inconsiderate you have to be to amass that type of wealth. There is no ethical way to be a billionaire without continuously exploiting someone somewhere along the line. Billionaires aren't paying their workers livable wages, nor are they paying people their true value to their companies. To them, there is never a such thing as having too much money. They will never be happy just being wealthy. It's always about finding new ways to make even more money. And to do that, they have to find new ways to take advantage of poor people. We've always known that this is how it worked, but I think that people are really starting to get sick and fucking tired of it. But what do you think, Daquon?
I completely agree. And thinking about the Titan submersible, like, that is the reverse of the COVID pandemic. Because let's be real, it was us everyday people being like, oh, you're rich and decided to do something stupid. Oh, well. Versus, versus the entire pandemic where people were simply trying to survive. There were, thousands, millions of people dying every single day, millions of people getting infected, so many people being affected by COVID. Meanwhile, these billionaires are just like, this is such an inconvenience. and they want all of their luxuries. They're like, oh, why can't I go to Air One and get my smoothies? Why can't I do this, this, and that? Why do I have to stay in my mansion where I could live in a different room every single day of the month and still not explore the entire thing? And so you really saw that divide of how, for a lot of people, the COVID pandemic was a tragedy. It was people dying around them. It was people losing their jobs, not having money, not being able to know how they're going to afford food every month or every week or X, Y, and Z, having to work still in these terrible conditions because they simply needed to feed themselves versus rich people who are like, this is such an inconvenience. I have to wear a mask. I have to stay home. I can't fly to New York this week and Paris next week and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And, or even just like Americans simply struggling to survive, and these businesses are getting bailed out for PPP loans. And not only getting bailed out with these loans, but getting these loans forgiven versus student loans. But that's another conversation. But I think that it's a perfect example of how oftentimes there are all of these different caveats and all of these different ways that we nurture the rich. And when it comes to the working class, it's considered handouts. We're considered lazy, not working hard enough to get to where we want to be, when in reality, a lot of these rich people didn't work hard to get to where they're at. They had a silver spoon in their mouth from when the time they were born. They had all of these people they exploited. They have all of these people working under them, doing the actual hard work, where their money sits in investment banks and all of these different accounts, literally accruing so much more interest than what they actually pay the people doing the work to keep their businesses and their ventures alive.
Exactly.
In an article written by Jeff Weiss, we learned that on August 15th, the TikToker and budding musician Liliana Wild posed viewers a question, quote, "Want to see the cringiest, most coupley thing ever," end quotes. Within weeks, Wild 34 and her husband of 5 years, Sean Kohler, had gone mega viral for demonstrating a love surge, a term they've given to an affectionate gesture in their relationship, whereby one of their bodies starts to vibrate uncontainably with love. Wild demonstrated Kohler coming into an embrace to shake together before letting go in a kind of emotional explosion. Many viewers viscerally cringed, with memes and TikTok stitches ribbing the couple in a way that Wild thought was incredibly funny, as she told Insider. But then the backlash unexpectedly veered into cruel and vicious wishes of tragedy on their relationship. Wild returned to TikTok on Wednesday, telling viewers that she hit a wall from all of the hates. She said, quote, "I can take a joke and I can laugh at myself," end quote, a teary-eyed Wild said in a video that has been viewed 5.7 million times. She continued stating, quotes, "But then some of the comments got really, really mean," end quotes. The TikToker said she's received messages from strangers wishing the two infidelity, domestic violence, and even death in their relationship. So, Andre, that begs the question, why do you think that people responded the way they did to this TikTok couple?
Because some people are some hating ass lonely bitches. That's the real
period.
That's
bitter.
the real tea.
It's giving bitter.
It's giving bitter bitch, giving bitter Betty. Like, now, did I see the video? Yes. Was it cringy? Of course it was. That was the fucking point. But like, what couple in love doesn't have cringy moments? Like, this couple was just sharing their love with the world and were met with an unprecedented amount of hate simply because people were mad that they don't have a special somebody in their lives. being jealous of people online isn't anything new. It's been happening for as long as the internet has been around. Now, most of the time, people will make light of their envy by saying jokes like, the when will it be my turn? Or, hey, God, it's me again, that classic one. But that's because those people decided to turn their negative, turn the negative that envy is into a positive, and instead of being angry at the people who have something they don't, they decide to use that jealousy to celebrate the people rather than tear them down. So it goes from being, why don't I have that? Or why do you have that and I don't? To the, I'm so glad you have that. I hope I find that too. However, there are some people in the world that truly believe that they deserve something more than another person. And that is fucking disgusting. Like, most of life is unfortunately the luck of the draw. Some people are lucky enough to find that special someone very early in life. Some find that person later in life, and others, unfortunately, may not find that special person at all. It doesn't mean that you are more or less worthy of love than another person. It just means that maybe it hasn't happened for you yet. But hating on someone who does have the love you so desperately desire does nothing but make you bitter. Like, and maybe that's the reason why someone doesn't want to date your ass. Because, to all those people hating on this couple, how about you go to therapy, girl? How about you do some journaling, work through some of those traumas that turned you into such a nasty, hateful ass bitch?
Get that shadow work journal.
Oh my God, bitch, don't you dare. Don't you even say that shit, bitch. Don't say it. It's like the fucking Candyman, bitch. You say it too many times, it she'll pop up. But, I think that maybe if you heal a little bit from that bullshit, you might possibly find a partner that you could be cringy sometimes too with, But Daquon, what do you think?
Like you said, people on the internet are bitter. They are just, I'm trying to say this in a kind
Pretty
way.
much, I would let Gemma know.
Pretty much, I would let Gemma know. I think that people are bitter. It's one of those things that honestly, truly, there's just a lot of people that need real psychological help. They need therapy, like you said. They need some type of journal to write in. They need something to express themselves, to talk about all of the psychological problems that they're going to. Because was the video cringy? Yes. There are plenty of cringy couples doing cringy couple things on social media. Yeah. It's the internet. You're bound to see it.
Yeah.
But to then go and say, I wish you infidelity. I wish that he abuses you or cheats on you or you both die.
Wild.
It is the leaps and bounds in terms of the mental jumps that people make is Olympic at best. It is one of those things where there are so many times on the internet where there are things where I'm like, this isn't for me. It doesn't.
I'm not the audience. I'm not the target.
I'm not the audience. Yeah. And I acknowledge that by saying, you know what? I'm gonna just scroll. Because there are videos where I'm the intended audience. So let me just scroll, tell the algorithm I don't like this, and keep it pushing. But for some people, maybe they've just been hurt in their lives. Maybe they don't have love at home. They definitely don't have love at home. It's not a maybe. But there are so many things going wrong in their lives, and they feel a need to hurt other people because they themselves are a hurt person. Yeah. And that's an explanation, maybe. But like we said so many times, explanations are not excuses. There is no reason in the world for you to just hop on somebody's video, send them so much hate and even death threats, when at worst, what they did was a little cringy. Which, let's be honest, there are a lot of things that people do in love regardless of who they are, that somebody else is going to find a little cringy. That's just how people work. There are things that I do that somebody else will be like, oh, that's cringy. And it's like, okay, well, we have difference of opinion. That's how the world works. And so it's one of those things that I don't really get about the internet.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that so often we hear talks about like just ignoring the hates, and like the hate is just a part of posting on social media. So I wanted to ask you, Andre, do you think that virality on social media automatically means that you'll be met with both visceral positivity and visceral negativity?
Unfortunately, yes. Going viral on social media means that your content has successfully reached a massive audience. And while that can be a truly astonishing accomplishment, there is always a caveat. Just like when it came to the couple we just talked about, there are people online who will celebrate you, people online who will be indifferent to you, and people online that will hate everything there is about you. And this goes beyond social media, honestly. I think that this applies to every area of your life. No matter what we do, how hard we try, how kind we may be, it is simply impossible to please every single person you come across. You will disappoint someone in your life. You will have people who don't like you simply because you are being yourself. It's just the way the world works. Our differences are what make us unique and dynamic individuals. But the price of this uniqueness is that there are some people that we just won't be able to mesh with no matter how hard we try. Going viral on social media merely amplifies our uniqueness to hundreds of thousands of other unique individuals who all have their own thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. Sometimes we're lucky enough to reach the like-minded individuals who want to share in our excitement, cringiness, successes, and thoughts. But there is always a chance that the algorithm will put your content in front of the wrong people. This is why I think it's imperative for anyone pursuing a career that requires you to be on social media to have a good sense of self-worth, number one, a support system of some kind, and a degree of separation from your influencer identity and your actual self. Now, when you know who you are, no mean or nasty comment could ever make you doubt that knowledge. And on the off chance that a comment does strike a chord, it's good to have someone in your corner who can remind you that you are and will always be that bitch. But I think that separation between your online and actual identity is also very, very important, because you have to know just how much of yourself you're going to put on display for the public and how much you're going to keep to yourself. For example, if you're insecure about people commenting on your relationship or your partner, then maybe that's a part of your life that you should keep private. But these are just three elements that I think are important to surviving being an influencer. What do you think, Daquon? What are some of your tips and tricks?
I think that it's a situation where love and hate on the internet is pretty much inevitable.
Yeah.
When going viral and having just a large platform in general. Do I think that it has to be that way? Of course not.
No,
It
yeah, of
doesn't
course not.
have to be, but it's just the way things are now. I mean, even if we think about how algorithms work and how video recommending stuff just like does its work, it's if something gets a lot of positive comments, that is seen as engagement. It gets pushed out to more and more and more people until they're like, okay, people aren't engaging with this, we'll stop recommending it. If something gets a lot of hate comments, that is engagement. Regardless of whether it's positive or negative, it is engagement. And so it is going to go out to more and more and more people. And if people who hate us are commenting, it's going to go out to more people who are like the person that originally hated it. So it's one of those sticky situations where once you get on the bad side of TikTok, you will be on there for a while. Like, even thinking about some of my most viewed videos, those are the videos that for some reason became polarizing. And not even just like me trying to be controversial. It's people didn't like what I said, so they left hate comments. And so more people who wouldn't like what I said left even more comments, and it just kind of snowballed. Or people who love it left a lot of comments supporting it, or there were arguments in the comments, which just, there was so much happening in that comment section. And I also think that there's an aspect to the comment section that are like, I like to liken it to like Rate My Professor reviews or like Yelp reviews. You have to really take comments with a grain of salt, because in reality, the comments are going to be the extremes of both sides. Like, a moderate like is just hitting like, scrolling on, but like, you have to really like something or really hate something to take the effort to leave a comment. Like, if it's a social media person, influencer that you love, of course you love them, so you're going to go show some support, hit like, leave a comment, etc. If it's something that you saw and you absolutely hated, then people like to leave hate. It's one of those things where you always get the most polar opposite in terms of reaction, because those are the strongest reactions enough to leave a comment or leave a review on Yelp or Rate My Professor and stuff. And most of the kind of truth, the people in the middle are just like, that's a lot of effort. I'm just going to keep on going. I'm going to keep on scrolling. Like what normal people should do. But that's neither here nor there. I also think that there is this aspect to it of, we don't need this to be the internet. Like, this doesn't need like, we don't need to like accept this as like the norm and reality. Like, I think about this, the recent situation of SZA, and like some fan literally sending her some, created a meme and something that like gave her a lot of anxiety, and like she responded to it, and the fan was like, well, like, aren't you SZA? Like, why are you here responding to me? Like, I'm a minor, I'm neurodivergent, X, Y, and Z, and all of these different things. And it's like, that's human to like respond to things. It's human to like have these different, like, it's the internet. I don't know why we have this notion that the internet has to be this Wild West wasteland of a thing where you could just say whatever you want because it's anonymous, and people are supposed to just ignore it and ignore all the hate and just like keep it pushing and all of this stuff, when like in reality, I miss the days when people used to clap back, when people would get in whole arguments about comments. You know, I like for people to protect their mental health, of course. But you're a messy bitch who lives for drama. Protect your peace. However, if you have the wrong person on the right day,
you heard me.
No,
I said you're a messy bitch who lives for drama. Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying?
I do love a little. I do love a little mess.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. I don't want to be involved in the mess.
It brings me back to like early 2010s YouTube of like the story time eras.
Story times. Oh yeah.
You got the drama and you got all the. It was just juicy. But going back to the question, it happens. It's going to happen. It doesn't need to be like this. We need to, people on platforms can really talk about how hate affects them. Like, we're normal human beings. Getting a lot of people sending you death threats is going to have some type of impact on it. And it's not just Oh, just ignore it. I think the best advice that I would have is to feel your feelings.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely, if something hurts you, be hurt for a second.
Yeah. And
Don't
that
let it
support system thing that I brought up.
consume you.
Yeah.
Right. Don't let it consume you and like
Or define you. Yeah.
or define you or disillusion you to your passion, but feel that hurt, because if you don't, it's only going to build and build and build until you're completely burnt out and you resent making whatever content or
Yeah.
whatever art or music or whatever you do. You're going to resent your passion. Now, the table is always hot with current events and social issues, but sometimes the heat can get a little intense. Let's turn the temp down, take a breather, and get into this week's topic cool down. So, Andre, I wanted to ask you, what is a talent that you wish you had?
Dancing. Dancing.
Mm.
Dancing. No, you don't have to that hard though. You don't have to. Nick was like, yes. Yes.
We saw each other at prom.
Like, it don't matter, Daquon, no matter how hard I try or how long I practice, dancing is just one talent that I can't seem to even get like a moderate basic grip on. Like, I could do a two-step, I could sway with the rhythm, but that's about as far as my dancing ability goes. It looks like so much fun. You know, I can tell people are living their best life and they're like voguing and living their best life dancing. But the way that my rhythm's set up, it's non-existent. Which also makes it really fucking hard to audition for musicals because most of the main roles do require a level of dance. And I fuck up that part of the audition every time. The acting, I got. The singing, I'm serving. But that dancing, that fucking dancing is what sends me to the callback sheet for singing tree number 3. Okay. Now, of course,
not tree number 3.
Tree number 3.
Not even 1 or 2. 3.
Now, like I said, there's nothing wrong with the background roles, but I really fucking want to be a part of the main cast of a musical, Daquon, and I have yet to audition for one that didn't require a dancing element. All right. And it's not like I can't learn the moves. If they aren't too complex, I can learn them eventually, but I'm going to need faith and regular practice on a daily basis to get to a place where I, at the very least, look like I know I'm dancing right. So if there was any additional talent that I wish I could have, it would definitely be dancing, because a bitch want to be a triple threat so bad in the acting game. Like, but Daquon, what about you? What talent you wish you had?
Girl, okay, dancing low key, yes, because like me dancing, not happening. I wish I could. It seems like so much fun,
right?
And like, I could pick up a little two-step, a little choreo moment. Like, I could theoretically pick that up with enough time and practice and blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah.
But the talent that I always think about, like I wish I could, is singing. I wish I could sing. Like, it's always been something where it's like, I love music. I played an instrument for like 8 years of my life, but like my voice as an instrument, not happening. Not happening. And like, don't get me wrong, when I'm in the shower, when I'm having a good time in my room by myself late at night, I'm giving you concert teas. I'm giving you world tour. I'm giving you vocals. But when you play it back and it's like, it's giving dying cats. It's giving it's giving screech. It's giving screech, not sing.
Oh my god!
Nails on a chalkboard tease. But it's always been something where it's like, I don't know. For me, I've always been able to pick up certain things when it comes to like hand-eye coordination. Like, I can do makeup. I can play video games really well. Those are things I can do well, but there's something about singing, and I don't know if you feel this about like certain talents. There's something about singing that I just can't wrap my head around.
Yes.
Because it's like, it's all voice.
Yes.
Even like playing an instrument, like I developed my lungs. I know how to breathe from my diaphragm, but there was also a lot that I had to do with my fingers to play the instrument.
Yeah.
So I feel like there was that tactile element of playing an instrument that like helped me get that as a skill and talent. But I don't have the same thing for singing.
No, it's the same way with dancing for me. I can't wrap my head around. I don't know how people do it. And it looks, you know what's so wild? I think you feel this way too about singing. It's like, it looks easy. Right. It looks like it's like, okay, just do that. But for some reason, my body's like, baby, you can't do that. Baby, I don't know how to do that. And it'd be like, okay, the move is da 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 da, and I'm like, okay, I got it. Da 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 da
cacao.
It's like, it doesn't matter how many times I've tried. It's not like I'm not trying. It's not like you're not trying. I'm pretty sure you would put valiant effort into singing, but for whatever reason, your body just can't. It just doesn't compute. It just doesn't compute at all. It's really said, get somebody else.
You gotta do me.
And it's so wild because my sister is a full dancer, a gifted dancer at that. A lot of my family can dance, but I don't know. That shit skipped the generation, bitch. Because that's just
crazy parts. I was in a church choir before. And I was like, I don't know why you have me up here. I'm not gonna lie, there was a lot of times I lip sang. I was like, y'all not going to hear my actual voice. Listen, I could be Mariah Carey the way I was eating up the vocal track.
Daquon. And on that note, so many children grow up never knowing the full scope of what their culture has contributed to society and history. So it's time for a change. Let's take a pause, rewind, and remind the world just how we did that. In an article written on Reference for Business, we learned that Wallace Amos Jr. was born in Tallahassee, Florida in 1936. Wally Amos, as he's more widely known, is an entrepreneur, motivational speaker, and an author who founded the famous Amos Chocolate Chip Cookie Company in 1975, selling bite-sized homemade chocolate chip cookies. While famous Amos soon lived up to its name, thriving for nearly a decade, the company's founder lost control of his business. When he sold famous Amos in 1985, Wally Amos lost more than a company. When the dust settled, he was barred from using his identity or his face to sell cookies. Always the survivor, Amos started a new company in 1992, this time selling freshly baked muffins and cakes. He eventually returned to famous Amos as the, quote, director of cookie fun, end quote, and travels the country lecturing on how to overcome misfortune and concentrate on the positive aspects of life.
Black people being the originators, the creatives, the
doers,
the doers. Better than me. I'm a negative person. I would have been like, you took my company, we fighting.
Immediately, scrap it.
Right.
But I will say it takes a lot of strength for him to be able to. Not only did he rebuild himself, he did not let that defeat define him, which we talked about earlier in the episode.
Right.
It's like he didn't let that defeat define him. He built himself up again. Bad bitches don't stay down too long, bitch. And he said, he said, I'm still that one. Will always be that one.
You not getting rid of me.
You can't get rid of me, bitch.
In an article from blackpast.org, we learned that in 1968, most poor children went to school hungry and stayed hungry. To address this need, the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense initiated the free breakfast program at St. Augustine's Church in Oakland in January of 1969. Bobby Seale planned the program with Father Earl Neal and parishioner Ruth Beckford Smith, who coordinated the program and recruited neighborhood mothers. The breakfast program quickly spread to chapters in 23 cities by the end of the year. Local businesses, churches, and community-based organizations donated space for the program and nutritious food like eggs, grits, toast, and milk. The Panthers fed more than 20,000 children nationally in 1969. By 1971, at least 36 cities had a breakfast program. In a 1969 U.S. Senate hearing, the National School Lunch Program administrator admitted that the Panthers fed more poor school children than did the state of California. The breakfast program's enormous success drew the attention of FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover. He stated that of all the radical Black groups, the Panthers were, quote, the greatest threat to the internal security of the country, end quote, because of their free breakfast program. Hoover recognized that through the program, the Panthers captured the loyalty of many Black children by giving them free breakfast. He was also angry that the breakfast program won liberal whites and moderate Blacks' support for the Panthers. The FBI's attempt to destroy the program included sending forged letters to stores to discourage them from donating food, spreading rumors that the food was poison, and even raiding sites while children ate. The Panthers' free breakfast program focused national attention on the urgent need to give poor children nutritious meals so they could be successful in school. In 1973, this attention helped lead to Congress's dramatic increase in funding of the National School Lunch Program so poor children could get free lunches. The Panthers' free breakfast program spotlighted the limited scope of the National School Breakfast Program and helped pressure Congress to authorize expansion of the program to all public schools in 1975.
Period, bitch. Period.
Once again, Black people being the doers.
The doers. Now, as always, thank you all so much for watching, and keep the conversation going down in the comment box below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and if you are listening to us on our podcast, please rate and review on whatever platform you're using. You can also follow our podcast on Instagram and TikTok at the Melanin Margin for updates of new content.
And if you like to follow each of us, our handles are at Daquon MUE
and at Andre Talks a Lot.
Now we will see you all next time on the Melanin Margin, where our goal is always to bring the marginalized to the spotlight in any way we can. Goodbye now.